Alright boys, today we're going to be taking a look at these two heavyweights. So the supporters in the Discord have wanted me to take a look at this motherboard for a while now. By the way, this video was brought to you by the supporters in the Discord. They buy everything. Neither of these motherboards were sent to me by the manufacturers. Both of them were bought at retail with my own money, with the supporter money. And all reviews on this channel have no corporate strings. Now, with that being said, so the Apex here I've been running for a few months now in my own rig, so I'm quite proficient with it. We're going to be focusing more on the Kingpin in this video. Now, if you're like, Jufus, I don't have time to watch a 10-minute video, just give me the answer. Short answer, don't buy this board. Long answer, it can work. But if the Apex is available, then just go and buy this. Affiliate link down below. Okay, so before we get into the memory overclocking stuff, which is what I know you guys want to hear, let's just go over a few quick pros and cons of these two boards, okay? Now, visually speaking, both of these boards are stunning. Obviously, this one is white, this one is black, right? Now, when it comes to the CPU being slotted sideways and the memory topology and all that stuff, don't worry about it. We're focused more on gaming on this channel, not more extreme overclocking stuff, right? So having the CPU slanted sideways does absolutely nothing for our purposes. But if you like the way it looks though, right, then sure, maybe if this, you know where I'm gonna use this actually? I use a RAM water block for my memory, so having the RAM up top actually makes it work easier with my distro plate in my case. So that's just like a super random pro to this board. Con, this one is eATX, so might not fit in every case, right? This one is just a regular ATX, can fit in most cases, right? Pro, this one has a backplate, doesn't cut up your fucking fingers like cocktail weenies on a Sunday afternoon. Con, this one is $100 more than this one, and it doesn't overclock as well. Now, probably the last pro to this board is this bottom slot here can be used in full 16 lanes. It has kind of PCIe lane switching, right? So if you leave this one empty and you only populate the bottom one, you'll still get your 16 lanes, right? Now, where that would be useful, I'm not too sure. The only thing I can think of is if you're using a double thick EK water block, it might hit this VRM heatsink here, right? So now you have an option of putting it down here. It's out of the way. You can have your dual-sided water block, right? Other than that, I'm not too sure. Leave a comment down below if you found a use case for having 16 lanes in your bottom slot here. Okay, so surface level stuff aside, let's get into the good stuff here. Now, this board, like I was saying, I've been working on it for a couple of weeks here, trying different memory sticks, dual rank, single rank, different die, M die, A die. Been really trying to get my grasp on how this board works. Now, when I do motherboard reviews, not officially, but kind of what my process is I have three CPUs, okay? A 13900KF with that Godbin memory controller that you guys know about, and then I have two other KSs that I have. Now, the reason why that's important, for those of you that follow me on Twitter or that are in the Discord, you know that that KF CPU that I have was able to hit 8400 megahertz fully stable on the Apex, right? Then I also have a 13900KS that can do 8200. Then I have another 13900KS that can only do 8000 on this board. It's very important that you understand what those three CPUs can do on this motherboard before I tell you what they did on this motherboard and the voltages associated with it. Now, I'll try and give you guys as much information as I possibly can, without rats taking my information and selling it online, right? Now, this CPU here, it's labeled D for dog shit. That's how I know this one has the worst memory controller. Now, this one, it does 8000 megahertz on the Apex, right? Now, it struggles to do that though, let me be clear. When I put that CPU in like a Unify X or like a Z790 Edge, it can barely do 7600. That's how bad that one is, right? So with that CPU in this motherboard, I could not get 7800 to work. So this one is very similar to how a Z690 Unify X overclocks. So I take the second CPU, the one that does 8200 megahertz in the apex, I put it in the dark. Okay, now we got 8000 running, right? But here is the massive issue with this board and why I don't recommend getting it unless you really know what you're doing. How do I say this? This motherboard required 0.1 volts more on the memory controller than the Apex. Now, I did not say 0.01. I legit said 0.1. So that's the difference between like 1.1 volt and 1.2 volt. 1.3, 1.4, 1.4, 1.5. You get the idea here. 0.1 volts more to achieve the exact same speed as the Apex. That's the big problem. But it did work. It did pass all stress tests, right? So now what happens when I take that Godbin CPU and put it in here? Now that voltage delta between the two boards shrinks to 0.5 volts. 0.05, sorry. So now to achieve 8000 megahertz on the dark, it needed 0.05 volts more than the Apex, but it did do it. So where I'm getting at with all this is the dark here works better the better your memory controller is on your CPU. I mean, this seems silly to say that, doesn't it? Like, oh, don't all motherboards work better with better memory? No, I mean, yes, they do. This one does need a little bit less voltage, but this one, the Apex, somehow seems to be able to make all 13th gen CPUs hit 8000. I don't know how it does it, and it also does it at less voltage, right? Which is fine. I mean, who cares, right? Who cares if you have to use more voltage on this one? Okay, I can't talk about specific voltages, but 2 out of the 3 CPUs required so much voltage to hit 8000 that I would not be comfortable. Let's say I would not be comfortable selling this in a bundle on my website to like a COD bro or a customer. I don't know how long that CPU would last at that high of a voltage. So actually, I'm stuck with this board now. I have to use it for my own rig because I only have one CPU that I trust actually using with this board because it needs so much damn memory controller voltage to make it work. I have this one CPU that I can use in this motherboard at low enough voltages that make me feel safe. I also can't sell that CPU out because I need it for testing. So by buying this motherboard, I'm kind of stuck. Either that or you have to go lower on the speed. You're not going to hit that magical 8000 number. Now let's say I'm selling both of these and you're a COD bro on my website. You see 8000 megahertz, you see 8000 megahertz. The average normie isn't going to care about the specifics of the voltage, right? It's just when you're selling a product to somebody, you have to make sure that it works and that they're not going to complain and it's not going to die on them in 6 months. Now, you probably can already see where this is going, right? What does that mean for XMPers, right? Now, I took a 7600 kit, put it in here with XMP, shoved way too much voltage into the memory controller. Again, I would not be safe recommending this board. I use the latest BIOS, by the way, and all the latest everything. I would not recommend using this board to somebody that doesn't know what they're doing. It's basically like the old Asus system agent way. Do you remember back in the Z490 days when you would enable XMP on like a Asus Strix and it would shove 1.65 volts into your system agent and kill the CPU in 30 days? That's basically what's going on here. Not as bad as that, but that's basically what's going on here. Now, other than that, I don't really have too many gripes about this board. The BIOS is a bit finicky, which is always going to happen with EVGA motherboards, but it works. Like you can get it to work if you know what you're doing. So I don't take that away from the motherboard, right? You shouldn't be buying an XOC motherboard unless you know what you're doing, right? Now, what I'm going to talk about next doesn't really matter to the board itself or the review of the board. It's more of like EVGA as a company. You can kind of tell that they kind of have one foot out the door here. They're cutting off their streams. They stopped producing graphics cards. They kind of dropped support for their Z690 Dark. People are complaining about not getting BIOS updates fast enough. They're low staffed. Right, so if you, again, with the whole customer service thing, if you buy this board for yourself, you have to know what you're doing, and you kind of have to assume that you're on your own. If this board dies in a year or two and EVGA doesn't exist anymore, you're out of luck. That's it. You know Asus is going to be in business in 2 years. You don't know if EVGA is still going to be here in 2 years. Again, that's just me thinking out loud, right? If my supporters didn't want me to test this thing, I wouldn't have touched it with a 10-foot pole. The writing is on the wall when it comes to EVGA's future as a company, I feel. And this one costs $100 more. So what do you get for the $100? You get a cool backplate, you get a cool board, but you get a future uncertainty of BIOS support, you get a future uncertainty of warranty support, and you have to deal with it requiring a lot more memory controller voltage to get stable. So there really is no point in buying this board when this one exists. It's just as simple as that. Now, you might say, well, this one is white. I want a black board. I don't have one, but if you can find one, just get the Z790 Tachyon. I haven't been able to get a Tachyon myself yet, but I have done a consult with one. I can't really review a product based on a consult, but I have done a consult. I got to 8200 megahertz during the consult with the guy, and it required more voltage than this one, but less than this one, and still within safe ranges. But that guy also could have had a good memory controller, so I just don't know, right? But it's also cheaper than the dark. So even then, unless you're absolutely in a pinch, you need a black board, you need 8000 megahertz, and you somehow know that you have a great memory controller, and you're okay potentially being left out in the dust for support. It's a lot of caveats, but it does work, and I'm gonna use it. Now, let me say, just because I am running this board in my rig does not mean you should. I do not want people out there running suicide voltages on their XMP kits just to play Call of Duty. It's not that serious, okay? Just don't do it. Now, to be fair, I did not check the memory controller voltage with probes, right? With an actual digital multimeter. That's beyond the scope of what I care to do, to be honest. It says too high of a voltage in the BIOS. I don't care. This one says a lower number. This one achieves the same speed. That's all I know, right? I'm pretty normie when it comes to that kind of stuff, right? As soon as I have to start probing things, I'm out, man. But can they fix that with the BIOS update? I mean, maybe. I have no idea. Scientifically speaking, there's not really any reason why this one should need more memory controller voltage, right? It just seems to. Now, that being said, if they do come out with a new BIOS that lowers memory controller voltage, maybe I'll put out a tweet or talk in the Discord. I'll keep you guys up to date if that does happen, right? Because I can't sell this board to a COD bro in a bundle. I can't, right? So I'm stuck with this one now. I'm gonna use it. I'm forced to use it. It is what it is. But for those of you that are interested in purely the performance aspect of it, the only problem with this board is it requires more memory controller voltage to achieve the same speeds as the Apex. That's it. But at least I'll keep you guys apprised of any updates with this thing. Anyway, guys, if you like the content, hit that subscribe button, do all the YouTube SEO stuff, like, share, subscribe, comment down below if you were thinking of picking up one of these boards. And if you really just wanted that Apex, but it's a white board and you want to do a black build and you're just stuck in a pinch. And I will see you guys in the next one. Talk to you later.